Ladies and gentlemen, we need to have the honest conversation. The one that nobody wants to start, but that the situation has made unavoidable. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. signed the most expensive contract in Toronto Blue Jays franchise history. A 14-year, $500 million extension that made him the cornerstone of this organization's future for the next decade and a half. The ink was barely dry before the WBC, where Vladdy absolutely dominated for the Dominican Republic in the early rounds, and every Blue Jays fan felt the electricity of what this season was supposed to be. The year the franchise superstar stops being a rental conversation and becomes a Blue Jay forever. The year the $500 million man backs up the price tag with the kind of offensive performance that makes the whole league stop and stare. And instead, on the morning of May 16, 2026, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s last home run was hit on April 20th against the Los Angeles Angels. He has not hit an extra base hit in over 50 consecutive plate appearances. In the month of May, he is batting .220 with a .220 on-base percentage, numbers that would be alarming from your 8th-place hitter, let alone your franchise first baseman earning roughly $35 million per year. And his current slugging percentage of .387 is the lowest of any qualified hitter on the entire Toronto roster, trailing even contact specialists like Ernie Clement, who was never paid to be a power threat in the first place. But here is the thing. Here is the part that the surface numbers are hiding, and the part that matters more than the batting average or the OPS or the lack of home runs. This is temporary. I can prove it. And by the time this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why Vladdy's slump, as real and as genuinely frustrating as it is, does not mean what the panicked segment of this fanbase thinks it means. If you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button right now, because this kind of deep statistical analysis is exactly what we do here every single day, and right now the Blue Jays need every informed fan in the room. Drop a like, leave a comment below. Are you panicking about Vladdy? Or do you believe the bounce back is coming? Let's get into it. Let's start with the full picture of the slump, because context is everything. Vladdy's last home run came on April 20th in a game against the Angels, a solo blast in the 6-4-6. These are not the numbers of a $500 million player. They are not the numbers of the third-place MVP vote-getter from last season who carried a franchise to a World Series. By any traditional measure, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is in the worst sustained stretch of his entire Major League career. Sports Illustrated's own metrics tracker confirmed it plainly. In May, he is currently 5.437 with a .2 itself from the panic. The StatCast data tells a completely different story from the box score, and it is the StatCast data that predicts the future, not the surface numbers. Vladdy's average exit velocity this season is 90.2 miles per hour. That is essentially identical to his career average. His hard hit rate is 42.4%, above the Major League average of 38.6%. His barrel percentage is 8.6, right in line with his recent seasons. His xWOBA, the expected weighted on-base average that controls for the quality of contact and strips away luck, is .365. For comparison, a player with an xWOBA of .365 typically produces an OPS somewhere in the neighborhood of .840. Vladdy is currently posting an OPS of .698 on the season. The gap between his expected production and his actual production is one of the largest in all of Major League Baseball right now, and that gap almost always closes in the direction of the expected numbers, not the actual ones. His bat speed, which is the most fundamental indicator of whether a hitter's physical capabilities are declining, remains at 76.4 miles per hour, essentially the same level as last season, when he hit 23 home runs and received MVP votes. His pulled fly ball rate has actually increased this season to 15.7%, its highest mark since 2023. In baseball, when a hitter with elite bat speed increases his pulled fly ball rate, home runs are the natural next step. He is getting the ball in the air. He is getting to it with his hands. The launch angle and contact quality are both pointing toward power production. The problem is timing, a mechanical issue with how early or late he is on pitches, and specifically the approach question that former big league catcher Joe Siddall identified weeks ago. Vladdy is sitting on breaking balls, letting fastballs get too deep in the zone, and producing jammed contact or strikeouts on the pitches he should be turning on most aggressively. But that is a mental and mechanical adjustment, not a physical decline. And adjustments get made. And here is the piece of evidence that should give every Blue Jays fan the most hope. This has happened before. Not just once, repeatedly. In 2025, Vladdy went through the first 18 games of the season without a single home run, with only 4 doubles in that stretch. His second home run of the year did not come until Game 26. He had just 4 extra base hits through the first 42 games. At that point, the Blue Jays were 21-21 and the national narrative was beginning to turn negative about whether this team had enough firepower to compete. And then Vladdy turned it on. He finished the regular season with 23 home runs and 84 RBIs. He made the All-Star team. He received MVP votes. And in the postseason, the stage where it mattered most, he hit 8 home runs, drove in 15 runs, and carried the franchise through a historic playoff run all the way to Game 7 of the World Series. If you wrote off Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in early May of 2025, you missed everything that followed. The other piece of this that demands honest discussion is the situation surrounding him. This Blue Jays team has been battered by injury in ways that compound pressure on every single player in the lineup. Jose Berrios is having elbow surgery on Wednesday. Alejandro Kirk has been on the injured list since April 5th. Shane Bieber is still on his throwing progression. Addison Barger was scratched with elbow soreness. The team is 19-25. When a lineup is struggling and short-handed, the franchise player inevitably tries to carry more than his share of the load. Vladdy is pressing. Schneider acknowledged it directly. He's trying to do too much. That is a manager identifying a specific, addressable mental approach problem rather than a physical or mechanical collapse. Trying too much is fixable. Getting healthy and getting more run support around Vladdy will reduce the pressure he feels to be everything in every at-bat. The adjustments, when they come, will come faster than anyone currently pessimistic about this situation expects. Now let's pivot to the other side of this conversation, because the Vladdy power drought is genuinely manageable if the front office solves what is genuinely not manageable, the starting rotation. Jose Berrios is having elbow surgery. That is confirmed. Max Scherzer is not throwing and nobody knows when or if he returns. Eric Lauer has been DFA'd. Cody Ponce is gone for the year. Shane Bieber is still multiple weeks away. The active rotation right now is Dylan Cease, Trey Yesavage, Kevin Gausman, Patrick Corbin, and whoever fills the 5th spot on any given day. That is a rotation that requires all 4 of those arms to stay healthy and perform at above-average levels indefinitely, with no margin for error or variance. One off start from Gausman or Cease, one mechanical tweak from Yesavage, one Corbin start that goes sideways, and there is nothing behind them to absorb the damage. Which brings us to the most important strategic conversation this organization needs to be having right now, Sandy Alcantara. Sports Illustrated's Patrick McAvoy was direct when he wrote that the Blue Jays should be first in line to call the Miami Marlins about the former Cy Young Award winner. And as the rotation situation has deteriorated further over the last 2 weeks, with Berrios now confirmed for surgery and the Lauer DFA creating an open 5th spot, the urgency of that call has only increased. Alcantara has $53 million remaining on his contract through 2027, his fastball is sitting at 97.3 miles per hour, and he leads all of Major League Baseball in innings pitched this season. He eats starts, protects bullpens, and when healthy provides the kind of front-of-the-rotation presence that teams spend their trade deadline capital chasing every summer. The Blue Jays have the prospects. They have the financial flexibility to absorb a contract. They have the organizational track record, in Pete Walker's pitching lab, in Dave Popkins' hitting development, in the infrastructure of a championship-ready franchise, to unlock what Alcantara is capable of when surrounded by the right support system. And they have the window. Vladdy is going to bounce back. Gausman and Cease are still excellent. Yesavage is becoming a legitimate ace before our eyes. But without a 4th dependable starter to absorb innings when the top 3 need rest or when the schedule gets brutal in August, this team is not going to compete at the level the standings require. The Vladdy slump is temporary. The advanced metrics prove it beyond reasonable doubt. The historical precedent confirms it. The physical tools are still there. The adjustments are coming. But while the fan base waits for Vladdy to wake up, the front office has to move. Because the rotation is not fixing itself. And the road to October requires more than 3 starters and a prayer. That is going to do it for today, folks. Smash that like button right now and help this video reach every Blue Jays fan who needs the honest truth about this situation. Drop a comment below. Are you in the Vladdy bounces back camp, or are you still worried? And do you give up the prospects to go get Alcantara right now? I want every single take. Subscribe if you are not already here, ring that notification bell, and we will see you in the next one. Until next time, let's go Blue Jays.